Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and today I'm going to be sharing with you my 50 by 50 TBR. First of all, apologies if the dishwasher interrupts me. This is the only time I have right now to film this, so we'll just have to allow the dishwasher to join in on the conversation. I was inspired by Morgan at Morgan's Endless Bookshelf, who recently filmed a 30 by 30 video where she shared the 30 books that she wants to read before she turns 30. So she's a young thing. I am closer to 50, much closer to 50 than I am to 30. And I believe that Jen at Jen's Reading Life also did something similar, 50 by 50 or 50 in her 50th year. Something like that. So between the two of those, I came up with my list of 50 books that I want to read by the time I turn 50. The good thing is I have some time. I have 5.5 years to go to get these books read. So totally doable. 10 books a year. We got this. Included on this list are some books that are on my physical shelf that I have had for a while and haven't read yet, even though I want to read them, as well as a list of books that I had put a year or two ago on a Goodreads shelf, which I called the book bucket list. And I have actually already read 5 or 6 books from that bucket list since I made that list. And that list was it was like 50-ish books that came from different lists of like the books you need to read before you die kind of thing. And I picked the ones that were most appealing to me and the ones that I really wanted to read. For interest's sake, not just because I thought that I should, but I really wanted to. So those are also on this list. I don't have many of those in hand, but I can easily get them. They're mostly classics of one kind or another. So let's just get started. Let's start with the big books category. So I figured that I read more than one big book in a year, depending on how you define big books. I was thinking books that are like 800 to 1,000 pages. So I usually read 1 or 2 of those in a year anyway, just not intentionally, not like I set out to read a big book, but I just often do. And also with Big Book Summer, it's a good time to have a goal of reading this, a good time to read it, like in the summer. So I have 5 big books that I want to read in the next 5 years. I've already read Les Miserables, which is a big book. It was a reread, but it was a big book. And another one that was really big this year. So I don't feel like I need to fit this one in this year, but I could if I wanted to. That is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. So I have read Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I've read it multiple times, I think 3. But for some reason, this one is just kind of daunting to me. And I want to read it, but then it's like, ooh, I mean, it's big. It's so big. Look at those little bitty letters. So I want to read it, but haven't yet. So in the next 5 years, it's coming up. Another big one that I really want to read that I think will probably be an easier read than War and Peace from what I've heard about it, and that is The Count of Monte Cristo. I do not have that on hand, but I am really interested in reading that one. I've read others by the same author, whose name is totally escaping me at the moment, but I've read other books. Oh, Alexandre Dumas? Yes? Yes. 3 Musketeers? Yes. Same author, correct? All of a sudden I'm doubting myself about that, but I think that's true. Anyways, I've read those. I've read The 3 Musketeers, and there was another one that I've read, but I have not read The Count of Monte Cristo, so I would like to read that one. And then Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, which some people are, like there's a whole group that's reading it right now, and I could have joined in on that, but I just had too many other things that I wanted to get to now, but that is one that I think that I would really like to read with other people. So when I get to it, if you haven't read it yet, we can read it together. And then Kristin, Lavransdatter is another one that I have been wanting to read for a long time. That one I've heard mixed things about. Like, I'm not sure if that's going to be one that I would enjoy or not. I can't tell based on what I'm hearing people say about it. So I'm willing to give it a try though. And then The Pickwick Papers by Charles Dickens is on this list. And so that is definitely one that I want to read. But that is all for my big books category, but it leads me right into another category, which was Dickens. So Dickens is one of the classic authors I want to read to zero, and I have a ways to go. So I need to knock out some books by him in the next 5 years. And some that I have on my shelf are The Old Curiosity Shop, which may be the next one that I tackle by him, because that one intrigues me. And then A Tale of Two Cities. I don't think I ever actually read this one. Pretty sure. I should have, like I should have read it in high school or something, but I didn't for whatever reason. So yes, I definitely want to read that one as well. And this one I know very little about, Martin Chuzzlewit, but it's Dickens. I want to read everything by Dickens, and I picked it up for like $1 at a thrift store a little while back. So this is another chunker. So this could also go in the big books category. It's almost 800 pages worth of pretty small print. So it's a little daunting, but I mean, Dickens is like that, right? And the other one that I would like to read by Dickens that I don't have a copy of is Our Mutual Friend. So I would like to read that one as well. And then another author that I would eventually like to read to zero, but he has got a lot of works, is Shakespeare. And I have mostly been focusing on reading his comedies over the past for a while. I've read 1 or 2 a year. So I've read a lot of them, but I have not read any of his histories or tragedies. So I have 3 here that I would like to read. And one is MacBeth. Never read it. I know. And Hamlet, also have never read. And Antony and Cleopatra. So I want to read all of those. And I also have Othello, which I started earlier this year and did not finish. But it was, a softie enough. I just set it aside and didn't get back to it. So I want to read that one. And Julius Caesar as well, which I have not read. So all of those Shakespeare's I really want to read, because those were on my bucket list of books that I want to read before I die. So let's make sure it happens before I turn 50. And then some classic authors that I want to try that I have not read yet is John Steinbeck. And I would like to start with East of Eden by him, which I think is another pretty big book, if I'm not mistaken. So got a lot of big books in my future. And then William Faulkner, and I would like to read As I Lay Dying by him, which I think might be maybe not a big book, but kind of hard book to read is my understanding. And then Anthony Trollope is one I really want to read, and I don't think that his works would be hard for me to read. I think they would actually be very enjoyable. I just haven't read any. And I don't know why. What I want to start with is Dr. Thorne, which I think it's like the 3rd in the series, the Barchester Tower series, maybe. I'm not sure. But that one I want to read because I watched the adaptation of it. I really enjoyed the adaptation. So I feel like that would be a really good place to start. But honestly, I feel like I wouldn't mind reading anything by him. And he's written quite a bit. So I don't know about reading everything by him, but definitely I would like to read anything by him. And then another one that has intrigued me since I heard of it, I don't know how many books she has in general. This is the only one I hear people talking about is Lady Audley's Secret. But that has made it onto my bucket list of books I want to read, and that is by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. And that one I think is one of those like sensational Victorian novels. So seems like it could be interesting. And then some other classics that I want to try. I have another category of American classics which some of these others that I've mentioned might fit in that as well, but in particular, the ones that I want to read, I have 2 by Willa Cather, which I know I read some by Willa Cather as a teenager, but I don't remember what, so it's all a reread for me. I have read a short story by her or 2. I know that for sure. Other than that, I don't know. So I'll start with her most famous, O Pioneers and My Antonia, or Antonia, however you say that. Those 2 I would start with. Another one that I want to read is Flowers for Algernon, which sounds really interesting and intriguing. And I don't think that that one is a very long one, but I don't have an actual copy, so not really sure. And then there are some short stories or short story collections that I want to read by several different authors. And one is Everything That Rises Must Converge by Flannery O'Connor. And I've heard a lot of intriguing things about Flannery O'Connor. I'm not sure that her work is something that I would read for sheer enjoyment's sake, but more for interest's sake because of the influence that she had and the things that influenced her and the concepts that she was working from, that sort of stuff. But I am interested in reading at least some of her short stories. And then The Seagull by Anton Chekhov. Actually, any short stories by Anton Chekhov I am interested in reading. I have read some of his already, so I would like to read more. And then The Yellow Wallpaper, which I forget who is the author of that one, but ever since I heard the storyline of it, it just sounded so intriguing and interesting, and I honestly don't know why I haven't read it yet. I think it's probably on Project Gutenberg. I could easily grab it and download it on my Kindle and just read it. I just haven't yet, but I really want to. And then some sci-fi and fantasy classic works that I want to read, because this is a genre that doesn't particularly interest me. So I have not read even a lot of classics in this genre, but I want to at least read classics, the precursors to modern fantasy, if you will, and sci-fi. So the first one is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which I've not read yet, but I want to. And The Hobbit as well. I know, I'm sorry. You know, my kids have read it, but I have not read it. I want to read that one. And The Time Machine, which I think could be really interesting. And then, of course, Austen is going to make her way onto this list. You know that, right? But not actually Austen, because I've already read everything by Austen. But I have some Austen-related books that I want to read. And one of them is Waverley by Sir Walter Scott. And that is connected to Austen because he was a great admirer of her work and was a contemporary. And I'm quite sure that Austen read his work and he read her work, etc. So there's a connection there. And I have enjoyed what I have read by Sir Walter Scott in the past, but I have not read Waverley. And Cecilia by Fanny Burney, couldn't think of her name. I have read, oh goodness, can't think of the other book by her that I read, but I have read one by her and I enjoyed it. So I want to read Cecilia also. I just haven't yet. And then The Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe. Again, I have read another one by Anne Radcliffe, but I've not read that one, so I will read that one. And both of those Jane Austen is known to have read, I believe. I don't know about Cecilia, but I know for sure she references The Mysteries of Udolpho in at least Northanger Abbey and maybe in one or other of her books. Then I have some nonfiction from my shelves that I want to read. So I will do a little switcheroo of my books here and show you those. So these are nonfiction that have been on my radar for a long time, and all of them I have on my shelves, so there's no reason for me not to read them. So the first one is How to Read a Book, which I started many years ago and just softy enough at the time. It was kind of dry and I just wasn't in the headspace for it, but I really do want to read it. So that is by Mortimer Adler. And then The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, which I have heard so many good things about it, and the whole concept and the topic, the whole thing interests me greatly. So I really want to read that one. A Woman of No Importance. I don't love spy stories, but this is a true one. And it made a lot of buzz when it came out. So, and I picked it up somewhere inexpensively. So I would really like to read it. The Untold Story of the American Spy Who Helped Win World War II. So, and then this one I DNF'd because it was very difficult, but I do want to get back to it. And that is The Body Keeps the Score. Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma. I think that once I get past the initial part of the book, which is where I got stuck, because it was very hard to read. It was very heavy. I have heard that once I get past that, that it gets a little bit more, I don't know if clinical is the right word. It was written for lay people, I think, not necessarily for psychologist per se, I don't think. But I think that once you get past the testimonial aspect of it and you just start digging into more of the science and whatever, it's a little bit easier to read. So, and then this one, I heard about on a podcast a long time ago and put it on my TBR after I listened to the podcast. It was a podcast by maybe Albert Mohler or something like that. And they mentioned this book, and I think we're even talking to the author of it. And I was interested in reading it, but I have had a hard time coming across an inexpensive copy, and it's not one that I wanted to buy per se, full price. So I ended up finding this recently, library book sale, Little Free Library, one of those. Anyway, it's called The Madness of Crowds, Gender, Race, and Identity by Douglas Murray. And then I have some Christian nonfiction, and most of these are kind of like classics. The first one is The Cavalry Road by Roy Hession, which I may have read as a teenager. It just looks really familiar to me, and it's not very long, but I want to read that one. And then someone gave this to me last year, and I really want to read it also. The Practice of the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence. Again, not very long, so. And then I picked this one up at a yard sale or thrift store a year or two ago. Haven't read it yet, but I want to. The Normal Christian Life by Watchman Nee. And then The Hour That Changes the World by Dick Eastman, which is about prayer and how to spend an hour in prayer. And then I have this bind up of the complete works of E.M. Bounds on prayer. And I am not saying that I am going to read this entire bind up. I don't know how many books are actually in here. I just want to read at least one. There are 8. There are 8 books in here. So I only feel like I need to read one of them. And I think I have read one of them in the past. I've read at least the first 1 or 2 in this book. But I'm just going to pick one at least and read it. I'm not saying I won't read all of them, but we'll read at least one. Okay. So then I had some more classics on my shelf that I want to read. So let me do another little switcheroo here. Okay, so I really want to read like Greek myths. And my younger son is studying ancient literature this year in school. And so I kind of want to read at least some of the books that he's reading. I'm not sure that I will commit to reading all of them. It's like he's reading the Iliad and the Odyssey and the Aeneid, and I don't know that I want to read all of those in the next 8 to 9 months. That's a lot, but he started out with a book of Greek myths. So I may read the one that he read, or I also have this one, and I really don't know anything about the different collections or anthologies of Greek myths. So this is just one I picked up somewhere along the way. The classic bestseller Mythology by Edith Hamilton. And yeah, haven't read it yet. I've had it for a long time, and I really want to read it, but yeah. And then this one is I don't know how to say that. Oedipus, the Oedipus plays of Sophocles. So it's 3 plays. I have read Antigone before. I read that in high school. I remember that. The other ones I don't think that I have read, and if I did, I don't remember them. I do remember really liking Antigone, so I wouldn't mind rereading that. But yeah, it's another one. And I think that my son is reading Antigone this year, so that would be a fun one to reread when he reads that. Henry James. I'm not sure how much I'm gonna like Henry James. I've read The Turn of the Screw, which is a short story by him, and I have read is it Washington Square, I think, which was good. I enjoyed that one. I don't know if I would like this or not, but this is Portrait of a Lady by Henry James, and I want to at least give that a try. And then I am interested in reading more poetry, including long-form poetry, and this is Evangeline by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And I do know that I like Longfellow, and I think that it would be pretty easy to read as far as poetry goes. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one that I want to read. And then a classic dystopian, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. This one and Fahrenheit 451 were the other books of the classic dystopian novels that I really wanted to read. And I have already, that were kind of like on my mental bucket list at one time, And I had already read the ones by George Orwell, Animal Farm in 1984. And so I'm slowly working through that list, and this will be the last main one that I really wanted to read. Then there are probably some others that I would get to after that, but this is the next main one that I want to finish. And then this one I have been wanting to read for a while, but I'm a little daunted by it. And that is Pamela by Samuel Richardson. It is, I believe, epistolary. And look at this tiny print. I'm not sure, again, this is one of those, I'm not sure how much I will enjoy it just for interest's sake, enjoyment's sake. Like, you know, enjoying it as a good story. But it is interesting because it's, you know, one of the first English novels, and it's epistolary, an early example of an epistolary novel. And Samuel Richardson was very influential. So I want to read it. And then, that's funny. I got this used somewhere and it has this sticker on the front, rental textbook. Your rental textbook is due during finals week. Yes, you can highlight in rental books. Well, I'm not renting it. I picked it up used somewhere. This is the Epic of Gilgamesh. And it's not very long, but it also does not even interest me remotely. Not even a little bit. But I feel like I should read it, and it's short, so it's on my list. And then finally, we are down to the last 3. And these are just random books that I have on my TBR, on my physical TBR, that I have been wanting to read. 2 of them were on my list that I was supposed to read this year. Actually, they might all 3 be. Haven't got to them yet, but I want to. I started one. I started Gilead, and it was very beautifully written, and I was enjoying it, but I wasn't really in the mood for it at the time, and so I didn't finish it, but I do want to read it. And then Ordinary Grace by William Kent Kruger is another one that I want to read, and it is on my list for this year, but I haven't gotten to it yet. So. And then this one as well, I'm not sure if I will love it or not, but I've heard good things, and then I don't know. I'm just not really sure that I will love it. But this is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak, and I am very interested in reading it and seeing if I will like it or not. We'll find out. It is kind of a little bit longer than I thought it would be. 550 pages. So anyway, we'll see. It intrigues me, but I don't know if I will like it or not. We'll find out. So these are the 50 books that I want to at least attempt to read in the next 5.5 years. Let me know if any of these are also on your list of books that you want to read eventually at some point, and what other books might be on your book bucket list if you have one. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts and reading them in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Bye.